Don't quote me on this. Please don't quote me. Several years ago, I learned that the British went all the way to India in search of what? They were not looking for gold. They were not looking for diamond. I'm sure they took some diamonds. I'm sure they took some gold if they saw it. But you know what the British went to India to look for? Spices, food, food. What gets into the stomach can change a man's direction in life. Today, I am delighted to bring into the Story Warrior studio, virtual studio, or as I prefer to call it, the Story Warrior fireside, someone who makes magic happen. Not magic as in doing magic, performing magic from the stage, but magic on the farm. We have the pleasure of having Mr. Emmanuel Fondi all the way from the motherland and representing the motherland in the best possible way, growing African foods, African foodstuffs, African vegetables in North America. Mr. Fondi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What time is it over in Canada?
Hi, Gideon. I must start before I answer your question to say it's a real pleasure. When you told me that we should have a conversation about what we do, talk about what is going on around here, I would tell you I was delighted because most of the time we focus on just trying to do what we want to do, trying to hit the targets, and our heads are like in a silo moving ahead. We don't have neither the time or even the ability to tell the story. So when we have someone who comes towards us and say to help us tell the story, it's doing what we are unable to do, but that helps us get the story known and get people informed about what we do. So I really appreciate your invitation. It's 8 p.m. In Gatineau, Canada. You know, Gatineau is close to Ottawa, so but it's 8 p.m. here. It's the end of our work day. It's summer. It gets dark at maybe 10 p.m., but it's been a long day.
Okay, I'm not going to keep you for too long, but you said something like Gatineau, Gateau. Like I can't pronounce that. It almost, I could bite my tongue. Is that the name of a city? Is that the name of a place? Is that the name? I'm just airing out my ignorance here. Tell us a little bit about Gatineau. Where's Gatineau located in Canada? The larger context of things.
Gatineau is one of the major cities of the province of Quebec. You know, in Canada, we would have generally the two languages separating the one province that speaks French, that is Gatineau, that is Quebec, I mean, and then the rest of the other provinces that speak English. So Gatineau is one of the cities of Quebec, the French province, but it happens to be close to Ottawa, the national capital city.
So Gatineau is in the French side, so you're saying nous pouvons continuer en français. Ah bon, nous pouvons continuer en français. Alors, mes amis les francophones, il faut venir, il faut approcher. Okay. I think enough of that. Please, if you are a story warrior, if you're someone interested in stories about the motherland and the other lands, draw your chair closer because this gentleman in studio is about to reveal the possibilities of growing African crops thousands of miles away from Africa in a continent that experiences 4 seasons, not 2 seasons. How is it possible, if I may ask you, Mr. Fondi, to grow crops that are tropical crops in temperate countries when the weather is very, 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 very flaky? The weather cannot make up its mind whether it should be cold, it should be hot. How's that possible?
Yeah, the weather this way is really very capricious compared to the and so we should say there are different groups of crops that we could say if we simply put like long cycle crops and then short cycle crops, annual crops that may take the whole 8-10 months to grow to maturity, and some other crops that could get from seed to maturity in 2-3 months or maybe 4 months maximum. So some of the crops that we would have the intuition to try to test around here would be those crops that can attain maturity in 2 to 3 months. In order for us to be able to grow them during the summer period here, which would typically be 4 or 5 months maximum for the growing period here. So the crops that really fit that would be vegetables and some spices.
Oh, spices, that gets my attention.
You spoke about India, so
spices,
it was really getting attention when you said the British moved a long way to go to India, and we know the Indian cuisine is very
boy, the Indian cuisine is something else. It's a topic for another day. And all my Indian friends, they know if they invite me home, I don't even want to go. I want to stay and eat as much as possible. But the beauty of what you're doing is that you're giving Africans who are living in diaspora the opportunity to eat the foods, the vegetables that they're used to eating back home, because that keeps them strong, that keeps them healthy, and hopefully that helps in the job market, because the way you present yourself, if you don't have a good meal, you can't carry your profession for 8 hours, maybe standing up in a pharmacy, in a hospital as a nurse. Tell us the importance of helping people eat what they're used to eating thousands of miles away from home. Why is that so important?
This is the way I would put it, Gideon. I feel like I have a calling, and that calling was to bring home away from home. So that contribution, you know, when we move around the world, we move around the globe, we shift from where we were born in our motherland and we go to other lands. We go with ourselves, but we also go with our eating habits. We go with our eating desires, our taste and flavors and what we prefer and preferences. We move along with them. We sometimes try to adapt where we are, but you still see that there is something that you are missing. So I figured out that I could bring home away from home, creating part of the culture here in the diaspora by growing crops. That is, we could still express that cultural satisfaction and feeling through growing the crops here. Not maybe it's the frozen ones, but having them fresh here.
Oh, that's a phenomenal accomplishment. Let me say this, sir. I've been around the block in Asia, North America, here and there, several cities across North America. I've not met anybody else who is doing what you're doing, especially at commercial level. I've seen people that do it more at subsistence level. So let me be clear. Are you now growing African vegetables commercially in summer? Or are you just doing a small scale for yourself and your family, your beautiful family to eat? Tell us, to what scale are you talking about? I'm
growing straightforward. I'm growing African vegetables at commercial level.
Okay. So and that means you can fit about, I mean, in the times of Christ, he could fit 5,000 people. Now, we're not talking about times of Christ. But if a family, there's a special wedding, they want to fit 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people. They come to you. Would you be able to have enough vegetables for them?
I should be able to go more than Christ's limit, to push beyond Christ's limit.
Okay, all right, cool. With the benefit of all the technologies.
Yes, even though Christ was conjuring, but at least we have tractors and other things to help us conjure what Christ conjured with his miracles.
Okay, very interesting. So you do real work.
We formed a company. It is incorporated, the Green Focus Farms. That is registered company in Canada. Yes. That is operating like a commercial farm. Yes. And currently, so we started initially by growing a few vegetables, and then each year, the first 2-3 years was mostly testing different vegetables that could adapt here, and then from the 4th year now and going to the 5th year, we've built the foundation. We're developing the market. You produce something here, but people might have produced a few things behind their home gardens, but not really commercially. So when you start producing commercially, the next thing is you have it in your hand, but people want it everywhere. When you say tropical vegetable, African vegetable, everybody wants it. But how do you get it to people in different directions? So building that distribution has been part of what we have also been doing And we've moved to the area where we've worked a little bit on the production capacity. We are able to produce. How we produce, we have mastery of it. And then the next step was how to distribute and get it to reach out to different people in different areas in different cities. So we are developing really that aspect now. So we are selling in Gatineau, in Ottawa, in Montreal. Montreal is the biggest French city and probably second biggest city in Canada. So we are reaching Montreal now. So sometimes we used to say that we can bring the Njama-njama that you used to find in the grandma's backyard. We can bring it to your doorstep in Canada.
Wow. So the Njama-njama is what some Westerners call African crest. Is that correct?
Yes, huckleberry.
Huckleberry. Okay, there you go. And let me give you a quick insight here. For those that may not know the huckleberry, or some other people choose to call it watercress for whatever reason, but I was doing a presentation somewhere in Reno, Nevada, in a small city known as Sparks. I finished my presentation. There's a lady, it's a white lady, who was in the room. She did not want to leave. I was wondering what happened. She doesn't want to leave. She didn't want to leave. She waited until everybody went out. She came in. She held my hand and greeted me and thanked me for the presentation. But then she asked me this question: where can I get my Njama-njama? You say you're from Cameroon? I said, yes. He said, where in the world can I get some Njama-njama? I am dying to eat some Njama-njama. I'm looking at him thinking, okay, I did not see this coming. I don't expect a white American lady to know about Njama-njama. But then she told me the story that she used to visit Africa when her daughter worked in Cameroon as a Peace Corps volunteer. She went to our motherland, Cameroon, stayed in Bamenda, and she fell in love with Njama-njama. To cut a long story short, I said to her, I'm not Christ. I can't conjure Njama-njama right here, right now. But I think it was about 6 weeks. In about 6 weeks, we're gonna have a Cameroonian cultural night. I promise you, I'll be flying to DC for a project to present some papers there, but I'll put you in touch with my wife and she'll take care of you. And the last thing I heard was she attended the event. She had a big bowl of Njama-njama. She had a blast. She had a very good time. So my point being, not only do these tropical vegetables have a lasting impact on the Africans who grew up with it, but they do go really far, and they can touch the palates of everyone who has the open mind to try. But tell me, is Njama-njama one of the most sought, or huckleberry, one of the most sought vegetables that you grow?
Exactly, yes. Njama-njama is one of the most sought after vegetable that I grow. Yes. You have Njama-njama and water leaf. You know water leaf, right?
Yes, I do.
Cameroonians use water leaf to cook water fufu and eru.
Yes.
Nigerians would use them to cook. They will put in bitter leaf soup. They put in all sorts of different sorts of soup. And I bet you, for those who are not Nigerians and who have not tested Nigerian cuisine, I would ask them to find a chance and go to some Nigerian restaurants and eat some swallows and different soups. In those soups, they have a lot of integration of vegetables. So one of the big one that has big demand all over. Njama-njama. You would have amaranth, what we call green.
Yes.
The Cameroonians will also call it folong.
Okay.
And then you would have what is also in high demand especially within Nigerians, is okongobong. You know okongobong, the flute.
Yes, I know okongobong. I don't know what's the English name for it.
Yes. So, but Njama-njama and water leaf are like the kings.
Okay. They are the top of the food chain as far as African tropical vegetables go. So tell me, what is the rough size of your farm, your commercial farm at the moment? I know maybe you're working full-time. I don't know, you're working part-time, but what's the size of your farm and about how many people are you employing?
We are at 5-7 acres at this moment. You know, vegetable production is very intensive. And labor intensive as well. We have about 5-7 acres of land, of farm that we are actively using now. with a scaling up potential with respect to the machines and the machine capacity that we have in the next coming years to move probably to 10, 20 acres. That we can wrap that up very quickly. The number of people we employ 2 permanent persons who are permanent employees of the company, but run about like those kind of agricultural operations require a lot of temporal labor. So if I'm counting like a head count of different people who come in to help us at harvest, at planting, or at different moments, we could achieve like 20 other people who work with us during the season. So each person would come when he has time and when we have a specific operation and the kind of operation they want to be able to come do with us.
Interesting. And so when it comes to the customers, are your customers predominantly Africans in diaspora, African immigrants, or you have Western customers, customers from the Asian subcontinent, and people who, I imagine that everybody enjoys food, but who are the customers that are coming in and who are the ones that are surprising you?
The main customers, like the direct customers, are those who know the vegetables. So that is from the way the business is designed, or when you're thinking customer from that very first base, because there's a base of the people who know the vegetables, Africans themselves and diaspora are the first customers. And then, but like you just told the story of the white American lady who discovered an African vegetable and was sorting after. There are other people who've discovered those vegetables, and each time they have an opportunity, they don't hesitate. Those are those who are surprising me. And then there is the deliberate work that we have to do to I feel there is still a lot of branding, and part of what you are doing now is helping us do the branding of African vegetables, getting people know about it, getting people know that African vegetables it's like the food of the pharaohs.
Oh, there you go. Now we're talking.
Yes.
This is what the pharaohs of Egypt and the kings of Mali, this is what they used to eat to be able to go to war and be able to dominate the whole world. Okay, now we're
talking. So you would have them. You have they are really. We removed very indigenous, unaltered vegetables right from the villages, and we have them here, and we could bring them at the doorsteps of people here. And the caveat to it is that we are doing organic production. So we're not using inorganic fertilizers or chemicals. We're doing organic production. Our farm is certified organic. I mean certified, it's not claimed. So there's an organization that controls what we do and gives a certificate to guarantee that we are doing organic.
Certified organic.
It's just like what the quality would be, just like what you would think that you got from the village where they just cleared the forest and the plant.
Wow, that makes my mouth water a little bit, because I've eaten some Njama-njama that it was good, but I felt like I scratched my hand like, okay, I think this is a bit different. Maybe the one that I ate somewhere was a bit genetically modified. So what you're saying here is your vegetables are as original as they grown in the tropics where they originate from, and you're not modifying them genetically to fit a certain desirable taste in the West. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. And I should say they are really indigenous vegetables. The research that's been done on African vegetables is not modification. There would rarely be any African vegetable that's going to be modified as a date, which I don't even see why we should go there. So the research that's been done there is mostly agronomic research on how do you put them on the bed, how do you arrange the spatial arrangement, or what kind of nutrient response, or what kind of insects attack them, and how do you combat them. So it's mostly that kind of research to help the production system achieve its production objective, but there is not that high level research that is focusing on altering the natural form of the food. I know.
That is impressive. So you live and work in a country where GMO is almost the order of the day, but you're saying, wait a minute. It tastes better when it is not modified. And I could not agree more with you. But did you start out as a farmer? Did you start out as an engineer? Did you start out as a banker? How did you get started? I imagine you have some training that has served or informed you on how to do such farming, especially at that scale.
Yes, exactly. I think you're seeing it right. I am agronomist by profession. I did agronomy at school level, at university level, at the University of Chang in Cameroon. So I'm agronomist, and I practiced as the agronomist. I did practice as agronomist in Cameroon, both as practicing agronomist, but also as an agricultural researcher. For 10 years before I moved to Canada. But while in Canada, I'm also integrated in the Ordre des Agronomes du Québec. So I am officially in Canada also as I can practice like an agronomist. But I choose, an agronomist would be the person providing the service. But I think that I have this calling, and I feel like I should not just be providing advice. I should be the farmer myself. So it's here that I really switched to deciding that I think it's farming I want to do, and it's just the calling of our ancestors. I feel like I was probably born to touch the crops anyway.
You were born to touch the crops, and it looked like the crops have touched you, and they're touching the mouths of many people. But you see, I find it impressive that you do what you do the way that you do it. You did not get carried away by, oh my goodness, I want to have a big yield. I want to have a massive yield. Therefore, I want to modify all these crops. But you're like sticking it out to the original taste of what it is. Now, tell me, is it easier to grow in Cameroon, in the tropics where we grow up, or is it easier to grow here? Which is easier?
I would say there's not really a clear cut like that, but I would say there are advantages to grow in the tropics where the crops would grow in their natural environment.
Okay.
Because here you would have to try and modify certain things. For example, here to achieve a longer growing period, because typically we have 4-5 warm months. So to achieve a longer growing period, we are obliged to start either in germination rooms, or you could start by germinating it in a tray in your sitting room for those who want to just do it beside.
I see.
So we have like greenhouses where you heat them to be able to start in March.
I see.
And then you grow them like seedlings, and then you heat the field so that by end of May, when it warms up outside, it's hitting the field as a seedling that's already grown to a certain stage. And 1 month after, you could be harvesting. In Africa, you wouldn't need that extra investment of having a greenhouse. You could just make a shade and then go with your nursery below. And you can do them 3 times a year. Here we are running with weather to do one harvest, while in Africa you could hit them 3 times. So Africa generally would have its own challenges of mechanization, because of course you would need a tractor, you would need other things. I think everything is not yet working now to be able to facilitate that, but I think the generation today is probably thinking things in that direction.
Okay. I was very impressed when I first stumbled on your work. I looked at the level of mechanization, and I was like totally impressed. I said to myself, wow, he's not just trying to grow, but he's trying to grow at a scale that would make commercial sense. And it will be viable for him to make a living, because our parents, with all due credit and all due respect to them, they grew it for subsistence survival. And that did not take them too far. It did take them far enough to help us grow up, but commercially, they could not export. So you use quite a bit of mechanization. You use maybe tractors, I don't know. I saw some videos of you doing harvesting. It wasn't necessarily a combined harvester, but I saw you doing some harvesting. Tell us about your technical know-how and how you are integrating machines or modern machines into the process of agriculture. And this completely changes the narrative of what our parents used to do. By the way, that's the reason why I brought you in, because you're changing the narrative. On this channel, we want to feature people who are unsung heroes, who are doing work that is changing the narrative with untold stories. So tell us, why did you choose to mechanize to some extent and commercialize instead of just, I'm just going to grow enough for myself and my family?
Again, thank you again for the work you are doing, Gideon. Yes. So, one of the issues that maybe makes the younger generation shy away from agriculture in Africa, or not take pride in wanting to do it, is sometimes is the penability, the difficulty, bending, the hoeing, the clearing. If you describe agriculture from that ancient perspective, from that subsistence perspective, the young generation that wants to aspire, they want to dream, they want to believe in something, they are definitely seeing agriculture like some guy suffering, that kind of.
It's a chore. Maybe it's a chore. It's not cool. But what I see you doing is you make it look cool, because I saw you're having some kind of harvesters. You just pull it along, and it was harvesting neatly.
Yes.
So you make agriculture cool. So my question, maybe I should rephrase it, is: are you the cool man of agriculture, or are you the footman of African food crops in Canada?
So I think I like the cool side,
okay,
but I'm not afraid of the hard side. I don't know. It's my passion.
Yes,
so to come back to your question of the level of or extent of mechanization, or how I integrate that in order to facilitate things and bring it to that commercial scale. Yes, we have, like, the basic thing you would need on a farm is a tractor. You won't go without, to plow, to pull things around, and to do other things. We have a tractor, then we have tools that would help us. The tractor would do that digging, unearthing, moving the soil, and then you would have tools that you would still attach to the tractor that would gather and form beds. Tools that you could put maybe plastics or other soil protecting systems to prevent weeds. And then we have implements, planters that, part of the thing is you have to pick every seedling and go and put in the ground. So you have machines today that would help the planting.
Oh, I know my parents, my mom, when we used to plant granules, we spend a whole day planting. So how long does it take you to plant?
Okay, you see that granite that you had that difficulty planting?
Yes.
If you brought me there to that farm, and let's say you have a hectare, hectare is even bigger than a football field. If you had that farmed out, I could plant that alone in one day.
Oh my God. It would
take it's not sophisticated machinery. Maybe you just have a small planter that you push it in front of you, you load the seed in a small box on it, and you're just pushing it. You could get a child to pull it. He will be playing with it as he's just going and coming. You just tell him, keep the line. Just go on one line to that end and come back. Or whether you wanted to plant 3 lines or 4 lines. So it's at that level. Yes. So it's fascinating. So we'd have equipment that would help us either in planting the seedling or in planting the seed. And then from there we'd have equipment that would help us to harvest as well. So we have brought in some level of mechanization at the whole basic production level. And the next phase that we would be thinking in the development of the company is to start thinking of how, the unit where you could do assisted washing, assisted packaging, or pre-processing to put them back into forms that you can ship and move around North America. So we're really looking at that as the next step.
Wow, that's the cool part, because now if somebody wants to eat, say, okamobo, they live in Montreal or they live in Edmonton, they can just, can they go online and order from your farm, straight from the farm to them? Or tell us about the investments that you're making into the process of logistics, getting it from the farm to the waiting mouths of people like me who want to eat but don't know how to get to the farm.
Yes, that part is part of the difficult, heavy lifting part, distributing, because it takes beyond us to do it. So the model we are using typically, we started by doing distribution ourselves, but you quickly run logistics. human labor to be able to start moving to everybody, because you
Yes.
need all of your time on the farm.
Yes.
So we adjusted more to using a distribution network. So that's
Okay.
when we tried using, we took 2 years to try and build distribution network. So the first step that we did was to work through African shops. So
Okay.
we produce, we have them in cartons, and then we move them to the African shop, and the African shop moves it to the final, because everybody goes to the African shop to get something. So
Okay.
they reach there, it's like their eyes pop out, and then he sees Njama-njama suddenly, and then he says,
Fresh.
wow, he picks fresh Njama-njama right
Yes.
from there. So it is easier for us to use the store to distribute than to go to each individual person, because it will be more costly. It's less realistic.
Okay.
And then, so now we are covering some distributors, and then if we have to go move further in Canada, we will not be really doing to the stores ourselves. We would use a distributor.
Okay.
The strategy now is to focus on building a production capacity, and
Yes.
then get a specialized, and then build partnerships with specialized distributor who has the
Yes.
distribution network.
Yes,
you
sir.
you load the cartons in a refrigerated car, deposit with him on a specific day of the week. He does the rest of the job.
Yes, I imagine organizations or companies such as Amazon, they have massive distribution networks. I imagine there are also others that are operating beneath the radar. Are you looking into commercial partners like that who can get your products into places like Whole Foods, or you're only thinking, you know what, I can only supply the limited African market? Are you looking to introduce these crops, these vegetables? Because if it can taste good on the African tongue, it can taste good on foreign tongues. And I know from having watched people at occasions, at parties, when people come, they get exposed to these different exotic vegetables. And believe it or not, I just met a gentleman last 2 weeks. He's an American guy who is growing Njama-njama here in Dallas, Texas. The white guy who grows exotic crops from other parts of the world. And I was very impressed because he knows Njama-njama, he knows all of some of these things that you're doing. So my point is, are you exploring new networks that could go beyond just the immigrant population or the other diaspora communities that are already familiar with this?
Yes, exactly. In our approach, it is stepwise. First of all, moving it out to the customers who know it. That was the very first step that you do. You produce, you get it to them. So that's easy. But of course, we are planning on scaling up as time goes on. So the next phase we're working on in the next 1 to 2 years to buy a big farm.
Okay.
So that is one thing that we have to guarantee. The challenge with linking with the bigger distribution networks would mean you have to respond to two of their problems: consistency and quality. So consistency would also mean quantity. You could be able to hit a certain critical amount so that you don't put the product this week and you don't put it next week.
Yes.
So we're building gradually, and we're using the same approach. Today, we are starting with African distributors, those who are distributing African foods and who have that established network at that level, because the volume of the produce we have now would fit at that level. So that we are also learning as we are going along. I bet you there's a lot of learning when you switch from our classical career job in the office and you want to do business. It's a whole different school.
I can imagine. Now I have utmost respect and admiration for our mothers, for our parents who were subsistence farmers. I have utmost respect for American farmers too, because it takes a lot of work to get something done, to get something to be ready to harvest. I take some pride that I grew up around a mom who she took a lot of pride in the fact that she grew pumpkins. And I tried growing pumpkins in Seaside, Oregon, and it was always a great harvest. 3 years consistently, I was having more pumpkins than all my neighborhood, all my friends could eat. So we had excess quantity of pumpkins. But here's where I respect you in that field very much, and anyone who's a farmer. You plant a seed today, you go back 3 days later, you look at that seed is still watching you like that. You go back 2 weeks later, the seed is still watching at you like nothing has changed. And then when you finally give up, like, oh my God, this seed is never going to germinate. Oh my God, you get frustrated. That's finally when it germinates. And then it starts to poke through the ground. And before you realize, a couple of months later, it is building these fine bundles. It is the happiest thing that I've ever done. And ever since we moved down to Dallas, I've not found a way to replicate that. But I say that to indicate that you farmers, you people that feed us, you guys are the true unsung heroes because of the work that you do, however difficult, however cold it is. But let's step aside for a minute. In the cold months, you have a greenhouse. In the warm months, you take those crops outside. Talk to us about some of the heavy investments that you've made. You can throw some numbers, especially to have a greenhouse and to have a fairly large farm, and so on and so forth. Are you working as an individual? Are you working with partners? What are some of the numbers that you've probably been investing in?
So a typical, I should say, average size greenhouse that should be, and then I should say, today we are not yet like doing greenhouse production. We're using the greenhouse to do the nursery phase. So we're not growing the plants to maturity in the greenhouse at this moment.
Okay.
So that's why we cannot grow all year round. So we are typically growing during the summer, and then we use the greenhouse to like extend the growing period in order to start early. So a typical greenhouse like the one we have, that is an average in size, would fetch somewhat around $75,000 to have that greenhouse and have it operational. So that's for the greenhouse alone, just building it.
That's already making my head spin. Now you're not talking about a tractor yet. You're not talking about the implements, all the other things, the seats, because seats can be very expensive, isn't that?
Exactly. Seats can be very expensive, but like the implements themselves are part of it. You know, the challenges of being able to get into agriculture in this part of the country where agriculture is capital intensive, is raising the capital to be able to do the investments that you need to do before you can run agriculture. You would need the land. The land would fetch in hundreds of thousands to millions, depending on the scale.
Yes.
You would need basic machinery, at least tractors, tools to prepare the soil, and maybe the series of other things that I asked you, and they could be completely different in different kinds of operations. You would need some infrastructures like storage, like domes to keep the machines inside. So you would need irrigation, which would mean either you are using a borehole or you are tapping water from a river. There are different kinds of regulations and different rules you have to follow. You would need those and have pumps that are either controlled, linked to electric energy sources, or you're using diesel or other things to run them. And you have those ones to pump the water for you to irrigate, because when it's dry, you need to provide water to the crops. When it's really like these days, we don't bother, the crops are growing on their own, but there are periods where to achieve your season, you need to irrigate. So you have those irrigation infrastructures, some building infrastructures, machines, infrastructures, and then from there, depending on the extent of your operations, you might have some processing or storage or packaging infrastructures. If you do delivery yourself, then you would need delivery van, or you could either rent the process to do the delivery van, or you are buying it on your own. But that would mean that you would need to raise the money from somewhere. Us, individuals, you'd hardly be able to do that. So you could incorporate as a company and try to raise the money indirectly. But financing could be challenging for people who are like us, who are immigrants, who are not inheriting. If you were inheriting a farm, the bank would be coming towards you to give you money. If you're coming to the bank and saying, I want to farm, it's very risky.
The farm is asking, who are you? Who are you? What's the name of your farm? Green Focus Farms. What's so green about it? What's so focused about it? They'll probably have a good laugh. But tell me, is it Green Focus Farms? Is it a partnership? Is it a sole proprietorship? And how long have you been operating?
It's incorporated. We've been operating for 4 years, and this is the 5th year. So
Wow.
it's incorporated. So it's a company incorporated with me being the founder and the main person running it. But you have two other people who are silent and
Okay. Partners.
behind, and
Okay.
who have their contributions differently, who are not necessarily on the job like myself.
Wow. Is the company, is it close to getting break even, or is it still far from it? And
It's close to getting break even, but
wow.
it's been challenging.
Okay.
It's
For that, I must blast
challenging.
I must blast my Vuvuzela in honor of all the work that you've been doing, because it's not easy to get through all of that. Even what you're just describing, it made my head spin. I mean, so by the time somebody's enjoying that Njama-njama, you don't know how much work and sweat and effort and callous hands have gone into that. So I really applaud you for all of what you're doing. And you're the lead partner. The other guys are maybe silent, as you say. So this is more like a labor of love. Or are you doing it because it makes you a millionaire? Are you already a millionaire from the farm? Or are you doing it because it's a true labor of love?
I think if someone wanted to get into agriculture for the sole purpose of being a millionaire, I would advise him not to do so. There is money in agriculture.
Okay.
But because if you came to it and you're just counting the money, you're going to hit roadblocks. You could hit the roadblocks for 3 years,
wow.
and you're not seeing your way along.
Wow.
So if you came in for the money, I bet you would be running after 2 years when you're not yet making any profit.
Okay.
So I think that I am driven by a purpose, and I know that my purpose will generate money. So my focus is not the money. I'm driven by a purpose. I'm bringing home away from home. To me, I feel like this thing, I am the person, I'm the right person. I'm only the
right
only
time.
person who can do it now at this moment, except maybe it's in the future. So if
wow.
I don't think some other person would be doing what I'm doing right now.
I love that passion. You're the right person at the right time, at the right place to execute the transformation or the transfer of African vegetables and produce from Africa into the Western Hemisphere, and do it commercially in a way that it can reach the kitchen tables of every family that wants to have a taste of what people eat in the motherland. So, what are some of the plans going forward 5 years from now? Where do you see yourself?
5 years from now, I see our product all over Canada, and why not America?
Okay, I am writing this down.
I'm seeing North American outreach.
Thank you. Every next 5 years, I'll be going to Costco. I'll go to Whole Foods. I'll be looking. Where's Green Focus Farms? Where's the Njama-njama that was promised? Okay, I'm playing a silly game here, but I want to thank you very much for the passion, for the commitment, for the purpose that you are living. It's not easy to do the kind of work that you do. I doff my hat to you, sir, and to you and all your partners. I just want to end with one minute of quick question, quick answer. So, who inspires you, sir? Just give us one name, one or two names. Dangote, the famous African who is investing all over the continent. All right, thank you. Number two, if you had your choice to write a book, if you had the time to write a book, what would that be? What would the book be about?
Creating impact.
Creating impact. Okay, thank you. All right. There are vegetables and there are leguminous plants. There are all kinds of things that Africans eat. Which one of them do you think that it's a well-kept secret that the Western world doesn't know about yet?
Spices and vegetables.
Spices and vegetables. Like, give me one example of an African spice you know that the Westerners don't know yet.
The African basil. we call it in Meta, we call it Ifim.
Ifim, I think I know it. It almost, it's like you say, it's African basil. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. And my last question is, you go to an event, there is achu on the table, there's nangtar on the table, there's water fufu and arrow, there's bongo chabi. Which one are you going to grab and say, give me a piece of that? Give me a piece of that. Which one are you going to grab?
I would take achu because I can achu can combine the njama-njama, the mushroom.
It's a palette of everything. All right, it's a bit of everything. So you're saying that you're gonna skip nangtar. That's what you're saying, and you're looking at straight at the camera and saying, "I'm not gonna touch nangtar."
I have to take one, and I'm taking what is going to the highest diversity.
No pressure on you, sir. I absolutely appreciate what you do, and I thank you so much for taking the time to come talk to us. And we hope to bring you back, maybe as part of a panel, to talk about the Green Focus Farms and what you're doing to change the narrative of African farming in North America. Thank you so much, Mr. Fondi.
Thank you, Gideon. I really appreciate, and thank you for inviting us, and thank you for helping us tell our story.
Thank you, sir. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you.
Bye.